Hello and welcome to another episode of When Life Hands You Lemons. I have a very special episode for you today because it's one of my former instructors and one of the most talented people that I know personally. He has worked with some of the most interesting and talented bands and artists and groups within the industry, including some of my personal favorites, NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. In this episode, he will tell you all about his story and upbringing and how he came about and started working with the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and even some of the interesting vocal techniques that he used on some of the tracks that he's credited on how he got such large vocals during the chorus and backing vocals. So I hope that you enjoy this episode with Mr. Veit Renn, and I encourage you to sign up to my mailing list to find out and discover when new episodes are live. I encourage you to support me on Patreon, and I would also appreciate a 5-star rating in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts at. Without further ado and more tangents, I hope that you enjoy this episode with Veit Renn.
All right. Well, first of all, hi, Lennon, and thanks for letting me be part of your podcast series. I think it's an awesome thing that you're doing.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Veit Renn. I'm originally from Germany, and I came here to study music to the United States at Berklee College of Music. And then right after that, ended up here in Orlando, Florida, with a company called Transcon. I wasn't really working for them, but with them, right? There was a manager called Johnny Wright, and they had a boy group called Backstreet Boys, which I'm sure a lot of people know. And they were in the development phase of that group, and I had a great opportunity to demonstrate some of my skills, my tracks and my music to them. And they needed somebody kind of in-house that works with the guys and gets them kind of ready. And since I'm also a singer, I work very well with vocal groups. You know, it's definitely a little bit of an advantage for a singer to produce vocals than just somebody that does tracks, you know. Anyway, so I got an opportunity after Berklee to work with them, produced and co-wrote some of the songs on their album, on their first album. And then when that album was out, then Johnny and Lou ended up bringing another group to us, called NSYNC, right? And they weren't sure at the time. They weren't like 100% if they wanted to go with another group. And they kind of put that on my shoulders. Johnny said, "Hey, I need you to check them out, see what you think. You know, see if they have the stuff." And the first time I heard them do an a cappella tune for me, I was like, yeah. You know, first time you hear JC sing or Justin, it's like, wow, they're really great voices, you know. So that started. We developed them, and I actually had more songs on NSYNC than I did on Backstreet Boys over the few albums, especially the Christmas album, which I did about half of, and then continued working. I had developed a few artists. I had a group called Natural that then went to Transcon. I developed, which was like a boy band, not a boy group. I worked with Aaron Carter. I worked with Michael Friedo, many different artists over the years. And also developed some artists as well. Now we're here.
Now we're here. That's kind of a very brief rundown of everything.
That was just 25 years of my life.
25 years. So you went to school at Berklee, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What did you graduate from Berklee with?
Professional music. So it was actually, that's one thing Berklee had that no other school had, why I was so interested in it. It wasn't a specific major. You kind of look at the different majors and you put together the courses you would like to do and you present it to the dean and you say, this is what I would like to do. And they call it then professional music. And because to me, I didn't want to be a purely vocal performance major. I didn't want to do 8 proficiency exams on my vocals. It wasn't like that important to me. but it was really important to me to write like string arrangements like you hear on Nat King Cole records or like old R&B stuff, you know. So for that was a totally different major. That was the arranging major. And I was like, well, I kind of want to do both, you know. So they approved it, and I was able to take, you know, small and large ensemble string arrangement and big band arrangement, all these things that I wanted to do, and basically build my own major, which is really great there.
So Berkeley is in what, Boston?
Boston.
So tell us like that about that transition from going from Boston to Orlando. Did the Backstreet Boys, did that opportunity, that's the one that brought you here, correct?
Well, that's an interesting story. So it actually it involves a friend of mine that's now doesn't live anymore. He was a very, very, very dear friend. But it was I met him in a studio. He had a little home studio, and at one night I get a call from him. And I was already moved here for a few months because I had met my wife a little earlier. So I came here to marry her. And then a few months I've been working with him a few times. He calls and says, listen, I have this group here and they got this track. The track really sucks. I need you to come over and hook this up. I'm like, okay, I'll come over. I was there. It was like 20 minutes away. I came over. I didn't know who the guys were. I didn't know who Johnny was or who anybody was. I was just like, okay, what do you guys need? Okay, boom. I took like 30 minutes, an hour, did a whole new track. And they were like, we need to talk, you know? And so that's how it all started. And that's from that moment on, you know, you can call it a blessing, and it definitely is a blessing. But to me, it's also preparation meets opportunity, you know? Like if I wouldn't have done tracks since I'm 15 years old, I wouldn't have been able to perform the way I did in that moment. You know, it definitely takes a lot of preparation and constantly working on your craft, you know.
And that's something that now that you're teaching here, you kind of drive constantly into students' minds.
Absolutely.
You have to constantly, like I've written music and I've worked on music since I've graduated, but I haven't had a lot of time to do it. And I've been trying to get back into doing it, and it's something that you have to continue working
repetition
on.
Right?
Repetition, absolutely.
It's like I did martial arts for almost my entire life, right? And it's like any martial arts instructor will tell you, it takes 10,000 repetitions to have a good punch, or 10,000 kicks to get a good kick. And it's the same with songwriting. It's the same with playing bass, guitar, keyboard. It doesn't matter. It's the repetition of doing the same thing over and over. That's why all the classical players spend 30 minutes, an hour, every day, practicing the same thing over and over. Because it has to become second nature. If you got to think about it while you're doing it, that's already not quite there, right? It has to become that point where it's just happening, and your mind can go somewhere completely different, and it's still happening.
Absolutely.
You know? And then you're a master.
Yeah, you are. And I've even heard like the 10,000 hours. You have to put in 10,000 hours to become a master at something. And even now, I'll sit down at my piano and I'll just play C scales.
Yeah.
With my fingers, just to keep my fingers going, just to keep my ears tuned. I even downloaded an app to say listen to intervals, even if it's just basic major thirds, major fourths, perfect fifths.
Right.
Just to keep my ears fresh and at least hearing it. Even now, I'll be on a walk and I'll hear the frogs chirping, and I'll hear two frogs, and I'll be like,
what interval is that?
That's a tritone. Or that's a perfect fifth, you know, and I'll be like, well, what is that? Or those two horns that just honked. I'm like, oh, that was, you know, a minor second. So when you were kind of going back to with the Backstreet Boys, I know when I was in your class, you would tell us kind of some interesting stories. And one of them, I think it was with the Backstreet Boys, is how when you recorded and to get some more luscious vocals, you would line them up.
Yeah.
And you would have them sing,
Yeah.
and one of them would be at the front, and then it would kind of, the reverberations.
Well, that was actually one of the first vocal productions that I ever was able to do for a major label. And they didn't really know me. They didn't really trust me yet, you know. That was Jive Records at the time, and that was the first record they had plan to do with these guys, and it was also going to be the first single, so it was very important to them, right? So they sent another guy down, Timmy Allen, who was a really, you know, an A&R guy / producer that worked directly for Jive, really good vocal producer, and comes strong from the R&B field. Used to work with Change, the group Luther Vandross came from, you know. So anyway, my goal was, Clive Davis himself called me. I'm sorry, let me not confuse that. Clive Davis, not Clive Davis. Clive Caldner, the owner from Jive Records, called me and said, listen, we got this record we want you to work on. It's kind of a smooth R&B record, but we want it to sound like Boyz II Men. And I'm thinking, wow, Boys to Men, these guys have really big voices. How do I get our guys to sound that big? You know, that full when they do the harmonies. So I started thinking about, well, layers, right? So we really went experimental into it, and we did 22 tracks on analog tape. Each one individually, 4 or 5 tracks, you know, we just start stacking. And I was like, I heard it, blended it on the board, and I was like, it's not quite there yet, you know? I said, okay, everybody go together in the room, one mic, let's do that 5 times and layer it on top of it. We did that, but it was a little pitchy, really not that usable, you know. I was like, okay, all right, let's keep layering. So I ended up with 64 tracks of background vocals on that song.
Wow. Wow.
And one of them, and one layer of that was that I would take, for instance, Nick on the mic and put Brian right behind Nick's ear, and both had them sing both fully out, which kind of gave a blend of 2, but it also helped both of them to be better in pitch, right? So we layered that, and it was just, you know, there was a point where I had to say, okay, I don't think it's going to get any bigger.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care if I add another 64. I think this is about it. But if you listen to the song today, you can hear that those background vocals are just huge.
And what song was that?
I'll Never Break Your Heart.
I'll Never Break Your Heart. And just kind of a shameless plug, what are some of the songs that you did co-write so the listeners can kind of jump in and listen to see or hear some of the techniques that you used?
This is a long time ago. I got to really think about that. For NSYNC, Giddy Up. Oh my God, Here We Go Again. My God, my brain does not work. Backstreet Boys, For the Girl Who Has Everything. That's only a few. I can't even think of the rest right now.
I just thought, well, maybe
there was a bunch.
Yeah.
My brain.
Because I'm thinking, well, just so, because some of the listeners are probably want to like, oh, I want to listen to some of the things that you, especially something that now that you mentioned that song, like, I want to listen to how that sounds, because they never knew how that was recorded.
Right.
But now that they know how it's recorded, they can jump in and be like, oh, wow, that's how we did that. So that was one of the techniques you used. So when you were working with the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and all the other artists that you had worked with over the years, you talked about like developing them. Were you developing them as songwriters, or were you developing them as artists and kind of marketing them as well? Or were you just strictly in the studio working with them?
That's a great question, because there's many levels to an artist development, I feel.
There's many levels.
Many
Absolutely.
levels.
Absolutely.
There is from all the way from personality level, right, to studio etiquette and skills, to
how they look,
to branding, you know, that which is part of the look. But also now we're talking about how they talk to media, how they perform and dance. It has many levels. And of course, if you've been part of the development, then you're not necessarily part of just one thing. I mean, you're going to have a feature thing that you're doing. And for me, that was, of course, getting them really tight in the studio and making them understand the process of a vocal production or the process of a production period, you know. And Backstreet, not so much, but NSYNC really wanted to be strongly involved in the songwriting process. So we also sat down and we wrote songs together. And, now I remember one. Almost had it.
You remembered it and it kind of left.
Yeah, because when I said sitting down with NSYNC, I was thinking about that one song I wrote with JC, but I can't. Man, not Giddy Up. Digital Get Down.
Digital Get Down.
And Bring on the Noise.
Okay.
Yeah, those two. We wrote those together in the studio. So you develop them that way, but you see that there's so much. So after that, I did a lot of artist development where I had artists signed directly to me, to my company. And then, of course, it costs some money, you know. You got to get dance instructors. For natural, for instance, I had them individual instrument. They had teachers every week. You know, also, you know, when you have a group and they're performing and they're doing things, you got to feed them, you got to clothe them, you got to do all that stuff. It can add up pretty quickly,
yeah,
you know.
Absolutely.
And now I have a group, and it's I haven't done this in years because you get kind of burned out from development a little bit. But I found a group here locally through a producer that was working with them, and they were really blowing me away because they were sisters. And the biggest thing why I always stayed away from girl groups is they usually fight too much. And this is not chauvinistic in any kind of way, but if you ask anybody in the industry why there's so little girl groups signed, it's because they don't last. there's a lot of ego going on and there's a lot of personality and they clash a lot of times. But when you have three sisters, that is very unlikely, especially if you meet these three girls. They just love each other. So even if there are miscommunications or problems, I am not worried so much about that part. And then they're really amazing singers. So it was definitely one thing. So involved with that is, of course, they have to take dance, right? We're not even at the point with them yet where I'm talking about media classes, where I have somebody that is a radio personality that can teach them how to speak on radio. It's just really an art, you know. Not everybody is good at it. Everybody thinks they can just go on radio. And it always reminds me of the number one rule of my attorney that said, you're never as funny as you think you are.
And nowadays you have to be very careful because people get so offended very easily.
Absolutely. And yeah, so, but so now I'm developing again. And one of the main developments I want to do with these girls is they don't need my help with vocals. They're already great. But they've never really written songs. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been sitting down once a week and we start a song, you know. And I told them, this might not be any of the songs we ever do, but let's just write. So you can see what the process of it is. And there's so many different processes, you know. You have to kind of figure out which is yours. Some people like to start with chords and then come up with melodies and then with words. Some people like to come up with a story first, come up with words, and then build chords and melody around it. So there's so many different approaches to do it. And unless you're exposed to it, it's like not knowing what blue or green is. You know, you have to learn what those things are.
I think that's when I'm writing a song, I always just become instantly overwhelmed because there's certain things that you have to kind of have a checklist for. Mm-hmm. Like you have to have a bass. Well, you don't have to, but you should. It helps kind of formulate. You have to have percussion, vocals.
Oh, you're already talking production though.
Oh, that's true.
You're already talking production.
That's true.
And that's one thing that I did. I took 2 semesters with songwriting at Berkeley, which, you know, I was never really a strong lyricist. You know, English is a second language for me. It's not my first language. I'm not saying that I can't write in English, but and I definitely don't want to write in German.
Yeah,
it's just not a great singing language. You know, French is great. You know, but German not so much. But it's coming to Berkeley, I really didn't speak that well English, and then taking songwriting classes, it was very challenging for me. But one of the tricks I learned that I'm also teaching my girls is when you have the basic concept, you need to make a list of any word, 100 words long, of any word that relates to that concept. Doesn't matter if it makes any sense at this moment or not. And then make subwords of the words that relate to those words. When you have done that, this is your trigger for anything in the song. Because you see words, you write one line and then you look through your words and you see triggers. It triggers things in your brain, stories, other things. That was one trick that I learned from them that has helped me over many, many years. And another one is to also get up every morning. If you're a true songwriter, get up every morning and write down whatever is on your mind. I don't care how crazy it is, whatever story you just dreamt of or whatever is on your mind, write it down. And don't try to be artistic about it. Just whatever words pop in your head. If it's a couple of sentences, a word.
It doesn't even have to be a sentence, I would assume.
Yeah,
just words.
No, just words.
Words. Pick descriptive words.
Exactly. So that way you capture those moments because those are the ones where you're most open. You're not influenced by the world yet. You haven't seen any craziness on the news yet, and you're just, you know, really able to get the inside out, you know.
So yeah, that's a lot of great information. I never thought about doing that. It's just writing down words and then kind of branching off from that.
List of words that you can work from. Yeah. And then I have on the computer rhyme zone up. You know, and I take sometimes any word. Okay, what about that word? Ooh, what would I rhyme that with? Boom, pop it in rhyme zone. Look at first rhymes. None of those sound good. Secondary rhymes, which are rhymes that are kind of rhyming, you know. And then I usually like those better anyway. I don't like perfect rhymes. And then I kind of look through those. I'm like, yeah, okay, that one would work. Let's find a rhyme to that word and see if I can make it work to the other rhyme, you know. And then you get really crazy into it. But I think writing has really changed so much. You know, there is this whole rap influence into pop songwriting now, where melodies are faster and moving all over the place. And but then you still have artists like Demi Lovato and Ariana that I think it's still strong pop music. It's strong melodies, and it's if you take the words away, the melody alone could still carry the song, and that is really powerful. If either one of the elements can live on itself, then you pretty much have a hit record.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if there was a given formula, I think everybody would be writing pop songs.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's no formula. It's
No.
easier said than done.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, there's no hit formula
Well,
because
they're trying to come up with
they're
it.
trying to.
There's now this thing called Hit Song Deconstructed, which is a really interesting library source that we now have here at Full Sail, that takes all the top records and literally can go on and type the title, type of the artist. Or you can even start at just, okay, this mood. Okay, that's the number 2 song. Okay, boom, boom, boom. And then, yes, there's a master thesis about the song. It's several pages deep about the chord progression, the melodic flow, how it connects to the chords, how the words connect to the melody emotionally. I mean, it's so deep that I even read it and go, who has time to write all this?
Somebody does.
On every song. It's really mind-blowing. And it's a really great tool for, I think, songwriters that want to stay current, to kind of see the trends. They have a whole trend section where they analyze trends over the last 10 years. I was shocked, for instance, to hear that the only upgoing trend for the last 3 years has been trap.
I would have never guessed that, though.
I would have never guessed that. But all the other trends are downgoing. And there hasn't been a trend for girl groups in 5 years, which is really breaking my heart. But it's okay. I'm going to bring that one back.
Bring that one back. So
I'm going to bring that one back.
I mean, aside from the fact that they fight so much, there's been a lot of guy groups. Like we've had Big Time Rush. They were with Nickelodeon. We have BTR. Or BTS now, the Korean group, South Korean group.
They are huge.
And then we had One Direction.
Have you ever heard any more overproduced music than that Korean group?
Oh my gosh. I haven't been listening to them a lot because, like you said, it's
I listened to like 2 songs. I was like, the producers were on crack.
Yeah.
Yeah. There must got to be 200 tracks in these songs.
Yeah,
It's
at
just
least.
insane.
And then when you have, 6 or 7 people per group, how many of those have background vocals? How many times did each of them record a vocal?
It's.
I mean, you probably have 100, 200 tracks just in vocals alone.
Yeah. It's
so,
nuts.
so why do you think that the guy groups are more dominant or have been over the last years?
Okay, let's. I think we have to go back to the 10 to 15-year-olds. Okay, when you're a 10 to 15-year-old girl, you look at boy groups. When you're a 10 to 15-year-old boy, do you look at girl groups, or do you look at other things? Right? Boys are not really at that age, which is really, the kids are the main demographic of pop music, I mean, when is the last time an 18-year-old bought a record? No, they go on Spotify and stream it, right? So, and even for the kids, nobody's buying records, period. So it's all about streaming and branding and YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. But it's just, I think it's a purely demographic thing and a purely natural human thing. I think that young girls are very easily fascinated by the boy group thing, and it's, and they have posters of them on the wall. I could not imagine a 13, 14-year-old boy having a girl group picture. I also don't think that girls like girl groups too much. I mean, of course, they have some following, and that's why I think it's very important to be very positive in your music. I don't want to say Disney positive, but I do think that some of the artists are taking the sexuality a little too far for the demographic of their audience. I think it's just a little too much, getting too exposed to some of the elements in the lyrics, I think. But it's a very thin line to walk, because you're not trying to be too teeny poppy. And on the other hand, you're trying to also attract people at your own age and try to write for your crowd, because you're not just making music for others, you're also making music for yourself. So it's a very thin line to walk.
I think a lot of, they try to appeal. They think that when they start, they're going to appeal to people like me, 20, 30 years old. But that's not the case. They're appealing to the younger 10, 15-year-old demographic, like you said.
Yeah.
And
they are still true fans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like our mind is so scattered that we love you today and forget, who was that artist name I really liked yesterday? Whereby, you get a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old fan, they're with you for 6 months, a year,
or longer.
And
then when I for the Backstreet Boys, I grew up listening to them.
Yeah.
Because they were huge when I was growing up in the early 2000s. That was 10, 15 years old.
Yeah.
Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
That was it.
Britney Spears.
Yeah.
You know, and then Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
All those people were huge back then. And now I'll remember them. I'll go back to them and listen to their music. I still have their music on my phone.
Wow.
And I jam to them. So, like, I'm a dedicated Backstreet Boys fan until I die.
Right.
Because that's just the demographic that I related to.
Right.
Those are the music that I related
it's like,
to.
yeah, when I grew up, I listened to Earth, Wind and Fire and Stevie Wonder, and I will listen to that till the day I die.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you're considered a diehard fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a good segue into the next question I have written down here, which was how, from any standpoint that you view is most important, how do you think music has changed or has evolved, whether it be from the production, whether it be from the songwriting, whether it be the complexity or simplicity? What has kind of changed? Because a lot of people, like the average consumer, they just hear something, they don't actually see what goes on behind the scenes.
That's a really deep question.
I mean, we could have a whole episode on just this alone.
We could. Because it is a snowball effect of the industry first. You know, if we think about money first, you know, our industry can only survive with money, right? So when we think back 20, 25 years during those times, when you had labels like Sony, they were spending, $50, $100 million on their main artists. And then they still had a budget on things that won't sell anything and they lose money on, right? And they knew they will, but it was just part of the art. Do you think classical records make money? They don't, right? They're too expensive to make. But yet Sony would have an entire staff just to do classical records because it's the right thing to do, right? But then when you take that money away from, selling records and replace it with a fraction of it with streaming income, certain things will have to go and have to be cut, right? So you have number one thing that goes away is, of course, all the things that will make you lose money, right? And now you're starting to focus more on, instead of artistry, on people that have 1 million YouTube hits, right? So the view of how you find artists has changed. You're not looking for the incredible artists anymore, necessarily, but you're looking for the good artist that has 1 million views because they've somehow got lucky and got retagged by somebody famous, right? So, and when you get that, you get a deal, you come out, and the whole structure of these deals has changed so much that their main income is not record sales anymore, but everything else, right? Merchandising, concerts. I mean, most of the money comes from concerts now, but people cannot forget merchandising. I remember that New Kids on the Block made $1 billion in merchandising in the early 90s before Boys, at their end, they made $1 billion. Yeah. So merchandising is a huge number for people that most people don't even realize how much money goes into that. But to go back to your question, the industry has changed in a way that it gave us a tremendous freedom for anybody to be heard. The problem with that is that the filter that filtered out the garbage for us, which is kind of a rough word, and I don't want anybody to misunderstand that, but there is a certain quality that we were getting through labels that was just an uphold of the quality, right? The labels were there to ensure the quality of the music, the right songs. That's what A&R guys' job was, right? They were to find the best songs or help the artists to make their songs the best songs they can be through finding the right producers and engineers and studios and so on. So, but now we're in a time where everybody has the chance to do it at home. That's great. Most of them don't really have the skill set to do it properly and release that stuff anywhere. So we're flooded with bad mixes. We're flooded with really raw, unproduced music, which is for some people exactly what they're looking for. That's fine. But I think the problem is if you get 1 million of those, when we used to have 40,000 a year, and now for somebody to find the quality stuff because they have higher standards becomes much harder. So for me to go out and find all the new hot artists, I have to always call like 4, 5, 6 friends, and like, hey, what did you find last month? What did you find last month? And I get 1 or 2 from them out of this millions of people that are releasing music now. And I usually listen to it and I go, yeah, you guys find the good stuff, I could never find it if I wouldn't have these friends. It's just impossible, There's not great curation of the amount, and I don't even know if it would be possible for the amount of music that's being released now. Who could possibly curate this?
I think it's too easy for people to, you can buy an iPad and write an album. Because if you have GarageBand.
Yeah.
And you have the technical know-how.
Yeah.
And I think that do you think that oversaturates everything?
Absolutely. I think it's totally oversaturated. And here's another problem with that too, is you say you can buy an iPad and make an album. Absolutely possible. Problem is though, you think that because you bought the technology that you bought the knowledge with it.
Very true.
And you didn't. Right?
You didn't buy the knowledge.
Those years of in the studio of making coffee or wiping toilet seats and watching the engineer do his thing and make it that simple sound a greater sound, to make the blend so amazing to the ear. And now we have hi-hats that are too loud that are ripping your head off in trap tracks, vocals that are not de-essed and all over the place. I hear so many mixes now where I go, have these people ever heard of a de-esser?
Yeah. Or just simply an EQ?
Or an EQ to take some of the highs out. But it brings me to a discussion I had with another engineer the other day. He was like, oh, man, I only recorded 96K and, 24-bit because it just sounds better. I said, oh, really? What do you think most of your music is listened to? In what format?
MP3.
MP3. Do you think your 96K 24-bit file is going to sound better than my 44 16-bit file in MP3?
Not at all.
No.
And if you're uploading it to SoundCloud, it's going down to 128.
Yeah. Oh, which is, the worst.
Yeah.
So, but I've actually SoundCloud, I was reading an article, if you upload a 24-bit WAV file, it will stay a 24-bit WAV file.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. I'll find the article. I'll share it with you. Which is actually, because I've played some of my stuff back and I said, wow, that sounds actually pretty good. And I'd love for that if that was true, And of course, AAC is a little bit a better format, but we're still talking huge amounts of compression. A 320 kilobit file is still a tenth of a normal WAV file. And you can't just take 90% of something away and think it still sounds the same.
No.
But do we care? I hate to use that word millennia because it's more than a millennia. It's anybody that listens to music with a very low percentage of true audio files actually cares about the quality of the sound. They care more about the emotion of the track and the lyrics and whatever is making them tick, right? So I get that, but I wish there was something that would bring a little bit more higher quality back in the industry.
And like you said, I don't like if I were to play a 96 kilohertz 24-bit WAV file and then play the same song at 128 kilobits MP3.
Oh, you would cry.
I would be able to tell, but my parents, they would have no idea.
No, you would hear that. You would hear. They would hear it.
They probably would.
They would hear that.
That's probably what it
was. If you would say, okay, you play back a 9624 and then a 320, I'd be like, yeah, I would hear it. You would hear it.
Average consumer, probably not.
No, but you go to 128, it's a whole different story.
That's true. I should have said 320.
Yeah, 320.
But I mean, that's still a huge difference.
Let me tell you, we did a shootout one time between a 320 AAC, which is even better format, and a 4416 CD file, right? And I could not tell.
Really?
I could not tell. I mean, there was a couple of engineers in the room that pretty much picked it every time. And I think I'm a pretty good ear, but I guess I don't have a mastering ear. These were mastering engineers. And they were like, yeah, I hear it. It's right in this and this frequency range. I'm like, wow, okay. Well, that goes right past me. You got to have a really trained ear to hear that.
And you probably have to listen on a high-end
system. Very high-end system.
And with acoustically treated.
Yeah, not... I don't want to diss a company, but not some of these headphones that are out there. You know what I'm talking about.
Earbuds.
Yeah, earbuds even. But even I'm talking about what are these headphones everybody buys now? Beats, which have a huge bass boost on them and unnaturally, like I couldn't mix on those because all my mixes would end up with too little bass because they boost so much bass. I would counteract it, So it's
Do you know how much it costs for them to make Beats headphones?
No.
$18.
And they sell for what, 300?
400?
400. They cost more than my professional studio headphones, which my favorites are Sennheiser HD 800s. No, I'm just kidding. No, seriously, these are the best mixed headphones I have found from all of them. I mean, unless you go to $2,000, $3,000 headphones. But for $300,
There was an article, I don't remember where it was. There's like one or two articles that breaks down each part and what it is. Like somebody like
$18.
It costs like the parts in them. They're like, yeah, this is a plastic part. You can get it here at this manufacturer for $3. And they sell them. That's a huge cost margin.
Yeah.
They're making
well, you pay $150 for the name Beats.
And then now they're owned by Apple.
Yeah, and then you pay another $100 because they're owned by Apple. So R&D costs, I guess, must have been tremendous.
Yeah.
Because headphones never been made before,
No, absolutely not. And then there was the Sennheiser, I think it was Sennheiser that came out with their $55,000 headphones. And they have it looks like a record player, but it's the amplifier.
Oh, for the headphone, yeah.
For the headphones.
It's true, Class A probably.
Probably. And I mean, it was a long time ago when it came out, but I read many articles on it, like $55,000. I'd love to hear how those puppies sound. I can only imagine.
Tell you, I did a shootout for Bobcats, who's like one of the leading mastering engineers
love Bobcats.
In the world, right? And he called me and said, listen, I'm doing this article, and I want you to, you're one of the 3 people, I'm going to test these 3 $2,000 headphones out. And I want to see what you think about each one, what the strengths and weaknesses are. So he played me several songs, and there was one pair, I don't remember who made it. It was $2,000. That usually when you take headphones off and then hear it on even greater $40,000 speakers, you can hear a difference in depth, no matter how good the frequencies are. But there was one headphone that having them on and having them off sounded exactly like the speakers.
Wow.
For $2,000.
Wow.
And of course, each one of them comes with their own headphone amp. Because that's the thing about expensive headphones. You need really high audio. It wouldn't make sense to have this great headphone and run it through a little $50 headphone amp.
Or even plugging it directly into your phone.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense.
No.
No.
So yeah, that's kind of interesting. I saw that and it was like $55,000 for headphones, but I can imagine the experience. I can't remember. I think it was Sennheiser that
I wouldn't be surprised. To me, they make the best headphones. AKG makes good ones too, but I think when it comes to reference quality, where I can be sure that my highs, my mids, my lows are all where they're supposed to be, and not some kind of false frequency spectrum in there that I would therefore compensate for, I think they're the best.
Mm-hmm. I like when we got these these came with the launch box, and I'm not a fan of these ones.
Oh, these are the worst. Those Sennheisers are the worst.
They're I just I can't mix them. There's no low end. There's no high end.
That just sounds like a telephone to me.
It does. It sounds like a telephone. But for like this, where I'm just listening and monitoring levels, are perfect.
I was, and poor students. That's what I grade their mixes on.
There was a classmate.
That's why I like to grade at home when I grade mixes, so I can be on my HD1 speakers, and not. I listen to that and I go, "Oh my God, your mix is horrible."
There was I remember in your class, there was a student. I had left for a week. I had to go home for something, and I came back and I sat in the last week to make up my hours, and there was one of the students. It was when we had to mix that song. And then we would play him. Jeremy was in there, and we'd go up and we'd listen in reference, and he would kind of critique us, like, "Oh, your kick is too loud. Oh, your bass is too much." And there was a student in the class. He wasn't using any. He was using $10 JVC earbuds to mix that track, and I swear to God, it was the worst thing I ever heard in my entire life. And I thought, why aren't you even using these headphones? You were given these. They're not great, but
how
they're
lazy
better.
Do you have to be that you can't put even a better set of headphones in your bag?
Yeah, no kidding. But I was just blown away. Like, why are you using these? Like,
because they don't care.
No, they don't care. So, coming back to the development of artists, do you think that now that being that it's so easy to produce music and write music on an iPad or a phone or whatever it may be, do you think the value of artists has gone down? But I mean, you look at like people like Demi Lovato, who have done very well. Yeah. Do you think that kind of takes away from that value from the very talented people that, you got somebody who thinks is equally as talented?
Economically speaking, I would say Because value, when you say value, there's an artistic value, which I don't think is.
I think just value in, I don't know, like just in music quality or talent, I guess you could even say, because there's so many, there's always been that talent, but now there's platforms where people can actually showcase it.
Right. I think that's actually a good part about what's happening, right? That artists do have the chance to go out there and release their stuff and not have to wait for a big major label to drop hundreds of thousands of dollars and put them into debt for the next 5 years, right? There's a way to do everything cheaper, more efficiently, but it's still, I think a lot of people forget that it's still work. You know, like we had a discussion before we even start this podcast about all the social media marketing people will have to do now to be seen and heard. One of the great things that's happening is that, and again, I say it's great, but it also could be a really bad thing. And that's at the same time is we don't have to concentrate on local market so much anymore. But immediately when we put something out, we're talking world. Instantly, right? We put it out, the whole world can see it. A problem is that's a really, really big place, you know, and it's really easy to get lost in. You know, in a local market, if I do 2 shows a month, 3-4 shows a month over a year, I will probably have been seen by 1,500 people or more, right? Which, if I can convert 50% of them into followers, I got 750 followers, new followers, right? That will probably like my music, come to other concerts, maybe even buy merchandise. But to do that same thing online takes you to run 6 different websites, social media websites, which becomes a full-time job in itself, which therefore art suffers for. Because you're going to have to spend so much time on taking pictures of yourself and your kitty cat and your food you're eating and the workout you're doing, and that you're not thinking about the next song you're writing or how you can improve your artistic quality. You see what I'm saying? That's like that, and that's the what thing I'm trying to figure out right now in my life is like, because I'm trying to help this group to get to that place. But I also want them to find a balance in doing it, right? I don't want them to go crazy over the thought was, oh my God, I have to post every day and do this and do that and do that. When at the end of the day, shouldn't that drive you mad?
And not only that, you're at the same time, like people are telling you post 3 times a day. Well, but by the time you post 3 times a day, you don't have time to focus on creating something.
Yeah.
There's no time there. Like, it's like you have to post 3 songs per day. Like, that's impossible. Like, that'd be incredibly difficult.
One side.
That's just one side.
That's just one side, you know? So you do 3 Instagram posts a day. Okay, great. Okay, now I got to post something on Facebook. I should make a video at least once a week for YouTube, at least. And then I should have a couple of Twitters a day. And it's like madness to me. But if, on the other hand, okay, we can fuss about it all we want. It is fact and truth now. And we just have to deal with it.
It's how artists
We just
grow.
have to find, and this has always been, I think, one of the things I strive at is whatever it is, I'm going to try to conquer it and be the most efficient at it as it possibly can. That's the German in me.
Yeah, that's definitely the German. I got some German in me as well, and that is, I can definitely agree
I'm
to
going
that.
to be as efficient at it as you possibly can.
And I'm going to figure out shortcuts
exactly
that are going to work for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm already looking into social media managing network websites, you know, it's like where I can push one button and it does all of them at the same time.
That's what I do for, I used to use a site called Hootsuite, and now I use a site called...
Hootsuite, yeah. I looked at that last night.
Now I use a site called Buffer.
Okay.
And I like Buffer a little bit better.
Okay, thank you for the tip.
Just because it's got a cleaner interface. I just feel like Hootsuite hasn't been updated in 5 years.
Okay.
The interface is just a little bit wonky.
And I heard you can't on Hootsuite. That's why I didn't sign up last night, because somebody was writing about it. You see, I'm doing my research, right?
That's good.
Somebody was writing about it that you can't schedule Instagram stories.
I don't believe you can schedule stories.
Oh, you can't. Only posts.
Only posts.
Ah.
I believe Buffer is the same way.
Okay.
Yeah, just because I'm not
So
sure.
maybe that's just an Instagram thing. You can't do it.
It could be a technical thing because you might not have access to, like, in the API that Buffer might have. They probably don't have access to publishing there.
Somebody please call me and teach me all this stuff.
Like, for example, like I'm running my own website and I'm doing posts and sharing new music, and I use Buffer to schedule those posts. And the one thing, like, even like when you when you click schedule, it'll pre-fill like the headline. It'll basically take the headline of the post and put that in the text. But Facebook, it won't pre-populate that.
Oh.
It'll do it for Twitter. So I'll have to type it in manually because Facebook doesn't allow
Oh,
that.
Jesus. It's all these small little things that become a second job to the first job.
So now instead of literally just clicking my little browser extension and then clicking schedule, I have to go into the Facebook one and type in the headline and tag the people and then hit schedule. It's bothersome, but it's privacy.
At least a little shortcut thing.
It's definitely better than having to go logging into Twitter,
right,
logging into Facebook.
So, and this is the thing too that's really hard for me. I besides the girls, I still have a career of myself. I mean, I am a course director here, but I still produce, I still do things. And I want people to know that I still produce and write, because for some reason people think that once you're over 40, you're retired as a music producer. And that is not true, you know? And I'm as current as the next 20-year-old. I'm telling you that right now. You know?
I can almost guarantee you have way more knowledge than I do about current music. You just have way more background information, I'm sure.
Well, I research it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of stay on iTunes on the top 50 lists all the time. And I'm not saying that necessarily is the most current stuff, but it gives you an idea of the overall trends. And, you know, but I'm also, so I have my own social media nightmare, if you want to call it that, but I also have their nightmare at the same time, because I can't just put it all on them, so I got to help them and be on all their accounts. So now I'm running into this thing that I'm logging in and posting things and realizing I'm not even on my account.
No. You're posting
so it gets it becomes so messy. It's just driving me nuts.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I need somebody to just take over for me. I can't do it.
So yeah, we talked about the artist value of it going down. I think one thing that I think has been a factor into that is because major labels have been weaned out of the picture.
Yeah, they're still there.
They're still absolutely.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
still there because they have the budgets.
Yeah.
And they have
That's it.
they
It
have
still
the
takes millions of dollars to make an Ariana Grande.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
absolutely.
It's not free.
No.
You know?
And it's not going to happen overnight.
No. And it takes money. And listen, we know payola is illegal, and we think payola has been eradicated in the 80s. Then we thought it was eradicated in the 90s. Then there was a state attorney in the 2000s that was going after them in New York. And then there was, and you know what? Payola is alive and well-being because it just finds new ways. That's all it is. People at radio that have powerful stations are always going to take advantage of their power. That's just what it is. And I think it's human nature to do so. You know, especially if you, let's say, you're program director for a station in New York and you get bombarded with literally 1,000 songs a day that want to be grab 3 minutes of your radio time, right? There has to be a point where you say, well, I need to put a value on this. You know, how much is it worth to you that I put you before this? Because all these 1,000 songs are probably just as good as the next one. So how now you as a program director make that decision of which one you're going to pick? Right?
Very valid point.
Yeah.
It's not like you can poll the audience.
So I make excuses for them all day long because I get it. Yeah. You know? So they say, well, you know what? If you really want it, it's going to cost you $100,000. You know? And I'll guarantee you get 6 weeks of spins 10 times a day. You know? And that will, of course, if they're P1 station, that will result in 200 other stations picking it up because he's doing it. Right? So it is an investment which we little people can't make. Right? So that's why it's still important to have big labels because they have those kind of banks. And that's what labels have always been. Besides the artistic filtering and the A&Ring, they have always been high-interest banks. Loan sharks, that's what they are.
Yeah. And I think I was having this discussion with Monique Mason. She's also an instructor here.
I love her.
She's very knowledgeable and very excited about what's going on as well. And we've talked about playlisting with Spotify. That's kind of like the new radio. That's the new compilation albums. Is if you have a playlist that has 100,000 followers, you know, and those 100,000 followers are actively listening to the stuff in there to learn new music. They really like your taste. That's why they're following your playlist.
Right.
So some of those playlist owners, they're like, I have 100,000 followers. Okay,
you want to be on my playlist, you need to make money.
You got to pay me somehow.
Oh, absolutely.
And now Monique said that's the new form of payola. It's nothing short of payola.
It is.
It's 100%.
Except that's not illegal. Payola is illegal. That's not illegal because they're not running a radio station.
Correct. And it doesn't have to go through the FCC and all that stuff.
Right. So it's actually for them legal to say, listen, I'm going to curate you, right? I'm going to take my taste and take my time and filter all these things out for you, but that has a value. I get it. You know?
And these, it's against Spotify's terms and conditions.
Oh, it is?
It is, 100%. Because I'm paying you $100. Where's the money going to Spotify? They're not getting anything.
Yeah, I guess they are. I mean, I see what you're saying.
Up front, though.
Up front, right.
Like, like a radio station program director.
They're going to have to pay royalties for something you making money on.
Correct. You're picking a song that has maybe 100 streams.
But, if they would be crazy to go after the guys that do this, because the
there
better
are
these
companies.
curated lists are, the more people are going to subscribe to their service because they want those lists, right? So for them, it is free marketing. I look at it that way.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah. They would be crazy to go after them.
And that's like a lot of the blogs that I even write for now. They have Spotify playlists that they update weekly with new tracks.
I want to get on one of those.
And that's the way to do it. If you want to get streams, that's one of the ways to do it. But there are organic ways to do it. And even like Spotify, if you want to pitch to Spotify's like say Mint or New Music Friday playlist that has God knows tens of millions of followers, there is simply a Google form you fill out that goes to the editor, and he works at Spotify full time. And there's a playlist owner that works at Spotify full time that literally sifts through them.
Wow, poor guy.
And there's one for each genre. Like there's Rap Caviar, there's New Music Friday, there's an electronic one. His name is Austin Kramer. He's like in charge of the electronic version of it.
He's got to be getting a lot.
I mean, he's literally but see, the thing is people found out who it was. They would send him emails. They would send him Facebook messages, Twitter, Instagram. He can't even go on a social media platform without being bombarded.
Yeah.
So they're like, here's the way to submit your music.
Right.
Anything else will be discarded. I will not listen to it.
Right.
I mean, there has to be a point.
Perfect.
And that's kind of like the same thing.
Very smart.
It's very smart.
Yeah.
But, it's the same thing. But now there are people that have companies on that where they will say, I have all these contacts at Spotify. I can get you into these playlists. But it's not getting you into them. You're not guaranteed because it's completely. If I could send you a song, you might not like it. You're not going to put it in there.
No.
Therefore,
that's his job.
You just gave me $50 to pitch you a song that you didn't like. You don't get that money back. How pissed would you be if you paid somebody hundreds of dollars to get them into official playlists?
You paid them $50 to fill out the Google form you could have filled out.
Exactly. Or sent an email. It doesn't even have to be a Spotify playlist.
Right.
It can be somebody else.
But see, that's another one you just added to my list of 6. Now I have 7 I got to deal with. Now I got to add Spotify to that list too. So thank you. Thank you, Lennon. I appreciate it.
You have Apple Music as well.
Yeah, I'm not worried about them because I'm not. It used to be my thing and it used to be every producer's and A&R guy thing is when you find a new artist, you develop new music, and you try to sell their new music. That concept is great when you have a label behind you. But if you're nobody, right? If you're some local group that, if you are a fantastic songwriter and it's all about your originality, great. But I like to show, for instance, originality just in the way we do songs that you are already familiar with. By making acoustic versions, by making things that are just different. You hear that song, you already like that song. Here, let me show you another version of this song, that we're doing that doesn't need any electronics, needs a guitar and a cajon and 3 vocals. And hey, we even take the words and we change half of them into Spanish, And I think my concept has always been why I wanted to do that is what's the sense of me spending weeks and months and 6 months of writing an album of original material if I only have 500 people that are going to hear it? Doesn't make sense to me.
You're not going to get your payback.
I used to do it for 20 years, and I went to the point where you know what? Unless I can build a following first that is interested in the talent, not the songs, right? Or maybe even more than the talent. Maybe they're interested in, like we talked earlier, all the marketing things you can use on Instagram, cats and workout videos and what you eat and all the things people are interested in. But they're interested in you as a person, as an artist. And if you can get to that 10,000, 20,000 magic number, then it starts to be worth it to say, okay, now I have enough followers to really think about writing my own material. But anything before that, I think doesn't make sense to me. Not on the fiscal way, anyway.
No. I'm working on an ebook. It should be done by the time this episode is out. But it's an ebook on like 20 or 25 ways to get discovered by curators, bloggers, things like that. And it kind of showcases those, how to get in front of those people. And these are just things that I've come across with artists sending me music. And they're like, hey, they just send song after song. And because I write at so many prolific blogs, that they think that that's the gateway into becoming a hugely successful artist. And that's simply not the truth. I mean, look at, like, for example, Shawn Mendes. He posted 6-second videos on Vine, and now he's an international superstar. So, and he was also signed by a Full Sail alumni, which is kind of cool. But it's not the gateway, and there's so many different things you can be doing.
I think it's a bunch of things have to fall into place.
They do, and you have to do it right. But the number one thing is quality. You have to have good music. Your music might be absolute trash, and you could be on the most prolific blogs, but nobody's listening to it. It's like Shawn Mendes. He has good music. He has catchy music. It's memorable.
He's also a very handsome fella.
Exactly. He's a very good-looking guy.
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt, exactly, which is part of his branding, part of his marketing. But the thing is there's just so many different factors that come into it.
I forgot I just saw him 2 weeks ago sing live, and I was so disappointed. He's so nasal live. You know, he sings like really in his nose, you know. And I was like, oh man, he sounds so good on the records. But I was not feeling it, you know. And also, he was singing In My Blood, which is one of the covers that we're doing, right? It isn't in my blood, right? And he couldn't hit the note. So he would sing, it isn't in my blood. He would sing it.
Same note.
Same note. I was like, whoa, dude, what are you doing? Don't do that. You just lost a fan right here.
Yeah.
Push it out if you have to, you know?
Yeah. And I think it was him that I heard not long ago. He performed on NBC.
Yeah, it was some NBC thing I was seeing.
No,
yeah.
he performed in the Plaza, I think is what it was.
Oh.
NBC, the Plaza in New York City. And it wasn't good.
No.
Like, he just doesn't sound the same. Whereas you listen.
Do you think it matters, though? Do you think people care?
Because he's so good looking, I don't think the younger audience doesn't care.
Yeah, the younger audience
they're
doesn't
not going to care.
Yeah.
But people like us who can hear.
Yeah. But we don't buy them his records anyway.
No, not really.
So why would he do anything for us?
Exactly. He's already has his attention. He's able to retire. He could have retired 3 years ago.
What?
I mean, he's worth millions.
Right. Well, it's just not that much anymore, millions, really.
No. I mean,
it used to be like, wow, you got $1 million. Now it's like, oh, you got $1 million? Oh,
you can buy a car.
That's nice.
Buy a nice car, maybe a nice house, depending on where you live. But
yeah,
there's just so many things that come into the marketing. But it comes down to the artist, the quality of the artist.
Yeah, I know. And man, it used to be. You know, you think it would be simpler now to have more opportunities to get your music out. But I think it actually has become way more complicated and way more diverse. There's so many angles now. And like you just said, they all have to kind of fall into place.
They have to work together.
They have to work together. I remember we had somebody come speak here for us for our music online degree. We used to call people in and do this like once every 3 months. And I remember one thing he said was one of the biggest mistakes independent artists do is that they don't understand the difference between cheap marketing and expensive marketing. And I was like, what are you talking about?
What does that mean?
And what he said was, okay, expensive marketing is I have a staff of 50 that market hard for 3 months. Hard, right? And you're one person and you want to do a new record every 3 months, you should run one record for 2 years minimum, because you don't have 50 people running the marketing and you don't have the budgets that they do. So why would you constantly do new songs if you should be running one song into the ground? And I was like, my eyes really were opened wide. I was like, I've never thought of it from that point, but don't so many independent artists do that? They're like constantly releasing things, trying to get fans, when they never really give the fan the expression like, this is the song and I'm going to run with the song till I can't anymore.
But see, like in today's day, like with me, like with electronic music, there's an artist, like his name is Don Diablo, who I'm a huge fan of. He's from the Netherlands and he's like future house electronic music.
Oh, I love future house, yeah.
It's one of my favorite genres, but he's like every 2 weeks. Every Friday, he's got a new song coming up. But see, the thing is he uses, if you listen to his music, It's a lot of the same kick sample,
Right.
same bass.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the same sound design. It's just different chord progressions. Maybe they picked a different vocal, they pitched it up and threw it in there, and then did some vocal chops. Really nothing crazy. So that's why it's.
But you know what? I can appreciate that as well, because
Absolutely.
that's to me like, if you hear a Babyface song or track, the person doesn't even have to sing. You hear his sound, you hear his programming, you go, oh, that's a Babyface track. And the vocals start and you're like, oh yeah, it was a Babyface track, right?
Confirms it.
And he just stayed with this recipe. And I appreciate people once they have found their own sound. See, that is the tricky part. You have to have something original in your sound that identifies you. Does that guy have that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's like a lot of his, like when he goes into the drop, his synths are very LFO'd, whoop, 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 and they're chords. That's
so
one
if
of
you
his
would hear that,
signature
you would know,
things.
oh, that's one of his tracks.
And his kick and bass combination is very standout.
Okay.
Very standout.
Different, yeah. So for that, he has built a crowd that loves exactly that, and he can release new stuff to them all the time, and
it's catchy.
Keep the income coming.
It's perfect for the clubs.
Yeah.
And there's a few other electronic artists that have that as well, and they have a very similar sound. And it's just instantly like when they're like, oh, there's a track coming up, we can kind of expect. We know what it's gonna sound like, or what to expect, like this crazy melody line or this crazy drop or whatever it may be. And
it's funny,
I
it
think,
kind of contradicts what I was saying, but it does make sense the same way.
and see,
you know?
but the thing is today's day and age is like the younger generation, they don't have patience to wait 3 months. They'll move on to somebody
the
else.
attention span, please. That's the thing. It's like the attention span nowadays.
It doesn't exist.
But because you're bombarded with 10,000 new songs a day, how could you pay attention?
And then by the time, this artist A comes up and is working on the next big album, artist B has already came through with their first big,
Yeah, right.
and who knows the marketing strategy or the team they have behind their track. You don't know. But the attention span is if artist A doesn't release a track every 2 weeks, every month, they're going to move on. They're going to find somebody else.
Wow. Interesting.
And it's happened to me where there's been an artist where I've really, really liked. They've released consistently, and all of a sudden, boom, they're like, oh, it's going to be 6 months. I move on to somebody else that has a similar sound.
Wow. Yeah, but that makes sense.
Just because like I always want new music, I'm always looking for the next hot thing. So I mean, it's really a grueling industry. But see, then again, it comes back to I don't have time to completely redesign my instruments, go through my sample packs.
No. And you see, you shouldn't, right? If you found your sound, you should stick with it and then just write it out and do one track after the other. Although I think it's a little lazy from him.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a little lazy, but if he can do tracks where I'm just like, it gets to a point where like, oh, it's the same sound, but there's something in there that it's like, that's cool. Where it's kind of like where some artists, they'll use like the same sample.
I would get tired though. I would get very quickly tired.
It depends
of
on
an artist
now.
like
Now
this.
that I have an ear for it,
Yeah.
I can be like, oh, you're using the same sample, and you're not really doing anything different. You're literally just changing
Not
the chord
experimenting.
progression.
No, I can't.
And it's just okay.
That was like after the first, what was the big EDM producers doing all these pop songs last year. Not Cake in the Ocean, but every song they do sounds exactly the same. And after the third song,
The Chainsmokers.
Chainsmokers. After the third song, I was like, can they try something? Like it's like exactly the same thing. But you know what? Who knows? You know who's usually to blame for that? Not necessarily them, the labels. I remember so many conversations I had over the years with labels coming to me, wanting me to produce this and that artist, and saying, okay, so right now this is hot. So can you take this song and make it sound like that? And I'm like, well, that's already there. Why would I make it sound like that? Like I don't get it. To me, it's like, shouldn't I make it sound different than that? Because why would people want to buy us if they already have that? Why would you buy a Stevie Wonder copy if there's a real Stevie Wonder? Right? Right. So the logic never made any sense to me.
Well, see, and the thing is, comes down to there's only going to be one Stevie Wonder.
Exactly.
You'll never replace Stevie Wonder. He's
But
talented.
how about let's figure out what it is about that song people like, and try to take the concept of it and create something in its likening. right? Instead of trying to copy what they do. And Chainsmokers, I don't know if it's themselves or if it's the label, but they're literally every song they do has a very identical chord. Even chord progressions are similar. And the sounds and the arrangement, everything is identical. And it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I
And
can't listen to that stuff.
I used to like their older stuff, like when they were kind of going into electro house, like Selfie. I really liked that track. That was like, okay, maybe they're going to be kind of an underground electro house type of thing. And then they kind of transitioned into this pop. And it just became like, Don't Let Me Down. It just like, if you listen to that, there's like 5 instruments in that entire song.
But I have nothing against minimalism, though.
No.
I think that's an art form in itself to make something. If you can make somebody move their feet with just kick, snare, and hi-hat, and you don't need 50,000 loops on top of that, then you're groovy.
Yeah.
You know?
But when you have an entire album,
Yeah. Oh, like that, it gets boring.
it gets boring.
Yeah.
And the vocals are kind of the similar. Same concept. I'm sad. I lost my girl. Same thing. You know,
The old songwriter problem.
it's
What to write about.
what to write about. And the thing is they don't have one songwriter. They probably have 6 or 7. If you go on Spotify and you right click and you say show credits, you can see the songwriters on the track. And some of them are like 6, 7 people.
Oh, that's
Some of the pop, like Rihanna.
Oh, that's different. That's different. I can tell you how that works. So you and me write a song, and we go to the Rihanna camp. I mean, I don't want to even mention her because I don't know her camp. I know other camps where this is tradition, where the artist takes instantly 50% of the publishing of that song, or it doesn't get on the album. Okay, so you have to give up half of your publishing there. But then there's a manager. So before you can even get to her or him, the artist, you have to go through the manager who wants his 10% right off the top. And he probably has a co-producer he wants to immediately get involved with. And because he's also co-producing, he needs to get a piece of the song. So out of you 2, you and me, we now have 6 on the song. That 4 of them have had nothing to do with the writing process whatsoever.
None whatsoever. They're just credited on
But you end up with 30% of your own song. Yeah. Which has been several opportunities I had turned down in the past, where I'm like, no, not happening.
Because you don't get a big percentage?
Because I don't think I should give up anything. I'm sorry, you're the artist. You're going to go out, you're going to make your merchandising money, you're going to make your performance money, you're going to,
Plus, you get the master
hundreds
royalties.
of millions of dollars you're going to make if the song is a success. And what do I get? My performance royalties of 9.2 cents every time the song is being played.
Mechanical royalty.
Yeah, how is that comparable? And you want a piece of mine? How greedy are you? You know?
Yeah, that's why the songwriters have kind of been throwing their hands up recently with the new legislation and the music.
Well, there's some big
Act.
changes happening, though. I think we're going to be really positive, too.
Hopefully.
You know? Yeah.
Hopefully it's the start of something big.
Yeah. Maybe Spotify and them finally have to pay real royalties.
Yeah, Spotify, Apple Music.
Apple Music.
Actually, the number one, the best paying one is Xbox Music. They pay 2 cents per stream.
Wow, that's pretty good compared to them.
But look at how many people listen to Xbox Music. Like if think of Spotify paid 2 cents.
How bad is Amazon, I wonder? Are they as bad as Spotify?
There was a chart that was, I think it was Statistica did it, and it was Amazon was like in the top 5 worst.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Or best or 10. I don't remember which one it was.
Always the richest people in the world that want to pay the least.
Well, just like Amazon, they just recently upped their minimum wage.
Yesterday, yeah. But interesting fact is that they were already paying people $17 an hour. So updating their minimum wage to $15 is not really a change now, is it?
No, not at all.
Unless you're part-time. I think those are the ones that are affected by the $15 change. But most of the people in their I call them factories, not factories, in their supply centers were making $17.50 an hour. So you're making this huge announcement, you're now upgrading to $15. I'm like, you're already paying more than $15. Why would you? That's marketing strategy.
That's marketing.
That's all it is.
It's like Dunkin' Donuts changing their name to Dunkin'.
Oh, that's because there's more money in coffee than Dunkin's, than donuts. Yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Coffee is the second highest traded commodity in the world.
What's the number one?
Oil.
Oil. Oh.
Coffee comes after oil. I want you to think about that for a second.
That's pretty insanity.
Yeah, and when the oil prices drop to under $45 a barrel, coffee was the number one traded commodity in the world.
Wow. That's crazy to think about it. Coffee.
In money, in money spent. Yeah, it's insane. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that we have an hour and 7 minutes.
Wow, we've been talking that long?
Yeah, and we talked about quite a bit of stuff.
Wow.
Went off in
okay.
tangents, which I prefer.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of like shameless plug? Anything you wanted to add?
Absolutely. I got to have everybody go on YouTube and check out. Well, actually, I made it really easy. We don't even have a webpage for the girls because I said it makes no sense. Their webpage goes directly to a YouTube channel, and it's justimagine.com. But instead of an E at the end, make it a 3. So it's justimagin3.com.
And that'll direct them directly to YouTube.
Directly to YouTube channel. Check out the videos. Check out our acoustic covers. And write comments. We need lots of comments. Because that's what gets you up in the YouTube hierarchy in the search engine. It's not your place.
No.
It's a combination of all things.
What is that group? Because I know you touched about them kind of a little bit, but you didn't kind of go into detail. Like
they're 3 sisters. Their parents came from Ecuador. They grew up in New York. They came here. They're 18, 19, and 20 years old.
Wow, they're very young.
Yeah, they're young. They're young, and they're incredible singers. They're really amazing.
I've seen Veit and I are connected on Facebook, so I see quite a bit of his stuff.
Yeah.
And I can vouch for them. They're very talented.
They're very good singers.
Very talented.
And every 2 weeks, every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, we release a new cover. We're also getting into now a little bit, we wanted to do a Selena medley because they're huge Selena fans. So in 2 weeks, which was probably, this is not going to be out yet, but what is today?
October 3rd.
On October 10th at 7, we are releasing a Selena medley.
So next Wednesday.
Yeah, next Wednesday, which is not an acoustic cover. I actually did a fully produced track, and we did a video for it last weekend. But after that, 2 weeks after, we're going live. That would be the 24th, I guess, or 25th, Wednesday 24th. But we're going to push it back from 7 to 10 because most people eat dinner at 7. And we're going to do pieces of all our covers and talk and just be live on YouTube. It's kind of scary.
Yeah. That's cool though. That's cool though.
We want to go fully live. No fixing, no boom. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It was my suggestion the other day, and they were looking at me like, are you crazy? And I'm like, no, I think we should put it all out there, and if it miserably fails, we'll just try again.
You learn from it.
You learn from it. I've always wanted to do this live looping thing in Ableton. I'm getting really good at it. And I know I'm really good at it. And I'm still scared to death to do it live on YouTube. One day.
It's that, because now you have to take it outside of your comfort zone, which is probably just you and then the girls listening to it.
I'm just talking about me. I build like these EDM tracks live. Like I start with a beat, I add a boom, I do things, and then within like 10 minutes, we got like 15 different things going on. I'm filtering, I'm doing stuff. And it's all, I do it all the time. I practice it, I pick up the bass, I play the guitar, I sing lines, sample them, fly them. It's all happening live. And I can do it, but it works so well by myself.
Yeah. And now everything is just going to go haywire.
Yeah, and if I do it live, I probably completely lose my mind and it will be complete chaos.
There's more pressure on it too.
Oh, yeah. So I've just been planning this for a year. I wanted to go once a week live on YouTube and do like this 30-minute live set. I just can't get myself to do it. Somebody give me courage.
Well, we're sending you courage, and hopefully that
right.
I'll be there to support as well, because it's always fun to listen to your stuff as well.
Awesome.
So thanks again for being on the
you.
show. I appreciate it, and I'm not sure when this will be live, but I'll send it to you when it does.
Cool. Awesome.
Wow. There it is. I really had a blast with this episode with the extremely talented Veit Renn. As mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Mr. Veit was an instructor of mine when I attended Full Sail, and by far one of the most talented people I personally know. He continually produces incredible music. He's worked with some of the most revered pop bands and talents to come through the industry, including, like mentioned in the episode, is NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, whom I still listen to this day, nearly 20 years later. And it just blows my mind to see how much talent these people like this have, yet they're so humble and willing to provide information and insight and their expertise to the industry and students and other industry professionals. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode with Mr. Veit. As mentioned at the end of his episode, he threw out some links and stuff to follow where you can support him and then follow up with any questions you may have. They will be in the show note and description below. As always, I encourage you to sign up to my mailing list, which will inform you of new episodes every week and some tips and tricks as well that I've learned throughout the industry, and even some from the industry professionals and guests that I've had on the show. I encourage you to also sign up for my Patreon. You can donate as low as $1 a month. And all of the money that I make through Patreon will go directly back into this podcast so I can continue making it better and improving it for all of you. I also really encourage and appreciate ratings, specifically 5-star ratings within the Apple Podcast Store or wherever you tend to listen to your podcast episodes at. If it's on YouTube, simply give it a like, leave a comment, share it. Anything and everything helps grow the show. Additionally, and lastly, there is a guest request form. If you know somebody or you yourself are an industry professional and would love to be a guest on the show, please fill that out or send me an email, and I will be in contact with you shortly so we can set up a time to potentially record an episode with you. So again, I want to thank you very much for listening and supporting this podcast. I really, really sincerely appreciate anything and everything that you do to support this show. And before I keep rambling and going off on a tangent, I will see you on the next episode of When Life Hands You Lemons.